Good day, flight simmers. Welcome to Microsoft Flight Sim. Today we're going to take a flight in the Savage Cub from St. John's International Airport out to Cape Spear Lighthouse and then back to the airport. So it'll be a short flight and sort of a tutorial on how this plane works. So let's use the world map. And we're going to zoom in on St. John's International Airport, and let's select ramp number 37 here, right here. Set that as our departure, and then I'm going to click on runway 34, select that as our arrival, and then I'm going to go out here to this point of interest here, which is Cape Spear Lighthouse National Historic Site. Click on that and set that as an ad that we want to fly to. So now we've created a flight plan out to there and back. So I'm going to click fly. Now let's take a look at where we are going here to fly out to. Cape Spear Lighthouse, what it looks like. It's a National Historic Site on Canada's most easterly point of land, the oldest surviving lighthouse in Newfoundland and Labrador. It offers a glimpse into the lives of the 19th century lighthouse keepers and their families and is a popular tourist attraction. So here we are at St. John's International Airport. There's our Savage Cub. Little tail dragger wheel here. So this plane is very easy to use. It's a bush pilot type plane and a training plane for pilots that are just starting to learn how to fly. Very easy to fly and a lot of fun if you want to do some sightseeing in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I'm going to click ready to fly, and I am going to change the time of day so it's not getting dark on us during the flight. You can see what we're doing, so we'll make it around noon. And I'm also going to make it a nice time of year for Newfoundland, which would be September or October. So let's go with September, and we're going to visit the lighthouse in September. So now let's just take a look at this plane inside. We've got a vertical speed gauge. We've got our altimeter, and you can adjust it with this dial right here. Just press B on your keyboard. It'll automatically reset your barometric pressure to the proper barometric pressure so your altitude's reading correctly. Here's your airspeed gauge. Here's your RPMs. This is your oil pressure, temperature, cylinder heat temperature gauge. This is an altitude calculation which will be done for you automatically. There's your compass. Your comm setting will be looked after by the co-pilot, automatically done by using your settings. Let's take a look down here. There's your pitch trim and your flaps. Now your flaps you can control using your joystick or Xbox controller. Same thing with the trim. You can use your mouse if you want, or you can use your joystick or Xbox controller. Let's go up here and look at the throttle. You want to test the throttle, make sure it's working fine. I'm going to put it all the way back. Now let's take a look here. We've got engine choke, our hot air entry, landing lights, inoperative 12 volt switch. We've got a strobe light switch which we can put on. We've got magneto switches and our ignition start on off key. So let's check our brakes to make sure they're working. You can see them working here when I use the trigger, so they're okay, they're working. And let's just start this thing up. I'm going to pull out the choke, and I'm going to keep the brake on. And I am going to turn on the magnetos avionics, and let's start this thing up. There we go. Now I'm just going to rev it up to 4,000 RPMs. There we go. Everything seems fine. I'm going to push the choke in. Okay, let's take a look outside the aircraft. Just using my joystick to get an outside view. So we're ready to go. So that's pretty easy to start this thing up. So release the brake now and cut back on the throttle a bit so we don't take
Ground
off too
Savage
fast.
107 with Echo request taxi for takeoff west departure.
Savage 107 taxi to and hold short of runway 29er using taxiway Foxtrot cross runway 02 cross runway 16 cross runway 02 Charlie Bravo cross runway 20. Contact tower on 120.6 when ready.
Taxi to and hold short runway 29er via taxiway Foxtrot cross runway 02 cross runway 16 cross runway 02 Charlie Bravo cross runway 20 Savage 107.
So if you turn on taxi assist in your settings, you'll get these blue arrows, which will help immensely, especially in the dark, finding your way around the airports of the world that you're not familiar with. It'll keep you taxiing on the right instructions that were given. So you can fast forward to the takeoff if you want, or just bear with me while we get to runway 29 for our takeoff. You don't want to go too fast here because this thing will swerve back and forth. Very sensitive. And the slightest twist of your yoke will get this thing swerving back and forth. We can see the windsock there up on the left. See if I can get this thing tracking right down that taxi line. He's swerving a bit, that's for sure. I don't think it's too windy today. So the co-pilot's looking after the comm and talking to ATC for us, so we can just focus on flying this thing. You can see what I mean about this thing really swerving very easily. You don't want to brake too hard if you're going fast because you'll nose right into the pavement.
Tower Savage 107 ready at runway 29er west departure.
Savage 107 altimeter 29er.9er 2 wind com west departure approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 29er.
Cleared for takeoff runway 29er Savage 107.
Okay, this is runway 29er right here. And rather than go up and turn around, I'm just going to pull up here and stop on the left because this plane doesn't need much runway to take off. It will literally lift off all on its own once it got rolling. Alright, we're set to go. I'm going to put the flaps down 15%. And off we go. To Cape Spear Lighthouse. Okay, I'm going to bring up the flaps. And we are climbing nicely without much effort or struggling. This engine certainly pulls it along nicely.
Tower Savage 107, continue for west departure.
Now we don't have a Garmin system
Tower
in this
Savage
plane.
107, 1000 feet to land.
Savage 107 tower. Altimeter 29.9 wind calm, make left downwind runway tree 4.
Enter left downwind runway tree 4 Savage 107.
So you can see our altitude going up here. I'm going to set the barometric pressure again by pressing B on the keyboard just to make sure I got it right. So all the gauges are looking good. So what I'm going to do now, because we don't have a Garmin system, we can put on this visual flight rules map, and it'll actually give us, sort of like using your GPS on your cell phone or something, it'll give us the route we're going to follow down here and back. So you can see I have to turn and head south. So we're climbing nicely. So I'm going to cut back on the speed, and I'm going to turn and head south. You can get a beautiful look of St. John's, the city of St. John's, as we fly over it on our way. We get a look at the airport we just took off from. There's the airport on the left, and St. John's straight ahead. So I'm going to cut back a bit on the speed and trim down so we can descend a bit. Now I have the settings so these gauges show up on the outside, which assists greatly in flying, especially if you want to do some sightseeing and look around at the terrain. So you can see we're going down. There's our vertical speed there. Should level off on its own, more or less, but if it doesn't, you can just trim up a bit again. So the lighthouse is out here. So I'm curious to see how well it has been rendered in Microsoft Flight Sim. Certainly this plane is beautifully done and respond really nicely to any commands you give it with a joystick. I'm using a Logitech Extreme 3D Pro joystick, which is an inexpensive joystick, and it flies all the planes actually very well in Microsoft Flight Sim. So I'm going to trim up a bit now, just so we level off, so we don't descend too much.
Savage 107 wind calm, cleared to land runway tree 4.
Cleared to land runway tree 4 Savage 107.
So they think we're heading out to turn around and go back and land on runway 34, but we're going to fly out to the lighthouse first and have a look at it. So I'm just going to increase the speed a bit because we're descending a bit here. I don't want to go too low. So you can see when I increase the speed, vertical speed went up a little bit, so it's sort of leveling off now at the trim we have set. The flaps are up. Okay, so we're going to get a nice look at St. John's here. So this thing is flying pretty straight all on its own. Not too windy today, so it's not drifting. So you almost don't need an autopilot on this thing. So we're flying over St. John's now, and we'll be flying over St. John's Harbor very shortly. This is the Narrows and this is the harbor. So we're starting to gain some altitude here. I'm just going to cut back a bit on the speed. Turn down. Good look at St. John's and how they've rendered it. So anybody living there would have a good idea how accurate this is. So we're holding it around 1700 for altitude. Our airspeed looks good. Engine's fine. Angle of attack is good. So once we get closer to the lighthouse here, I'm going to descend so we can have a really good look at it. Just go inside and check our instruments, make sure everything's looking good here. Solo from front seat only. So it's quite accurate and nicely rendered. Alright, let's go back outside and take a look at things again. Take a look at the plane outside here. You can put your own tail information on the back if you want. There we go, the Savage Cub. Look at that landing gear here. That is beautiful. Okay, we're getting close. So I'm going to start going down. Just using my yoke here to descend. Just watch your speed, that you don't get into the rad. So I'm going to fly right over the lighthouse, and then we will circle around it just for a bit to get a look at things. So, we're getting pretty low here. 400 feet. Just going to increase my speed. So the lighthouse is just up here off my left wing, or right wing. So there's a visitor parking area. Little lookout areas for people. They want to look around. Now, I love the way they've done these rocks here to make things look real. Wow, it's beautiful. Look at this. There's the lighthouse. So I'm just going to increase my speed and go around and take another look at it. I'll turn this map off for a second so it doesn't block our view. So just watch your speed if you don't stall. So there we go. There's the lighthouse. down below. Wow, that's quite impressive. Just going to go back and take another little look at it. Oh, that's really quite nice. Ooh, really beautiful. Yeah, there's the lighthouse, and I'm not sure what this other building is up here. But wow, that's really beautiful. That'd be a great spot to visit. Well worth the trip, and not too far outside of St. John's. So we're going to head back now to the airport. But we are going to fly into St. John's Harbor. So you can see how that's been rendered. So I'm just going to give her some throttle here. Head back. All's looking good. So here's the Narrows up here, just off my left wingtip. So we can fly in through there, into the harbor, and then we'll head out to the airport. And we'll see how this thing lands. Now, this plane is a little sensitive when you're trying to land it. These tail draggers tend to be that way. They bounce a little bit, but not a lot. But you have to bring them in and try and level them out and bring them down very gently, as much as possible, to try and avoid that bouncing. And so we are at 1,500 feet, and I'm watching my airspeed as we're descending. I would like to just fly right up through the Narrows here, see what it looks like. So I think I'm going to do some lighthouse sightseeing tours with this plane, just for the fun of it. Some of the historic lighthouses in Canada, and might as well start at the most easterly point of Canada for our first inaugural lighthouse tour. Alrighty, we are at 800 feet. So here we go, flying up the Narrows. Wow, really beautiful. So people that live here know some of the other points of interest. So we're at 500 feet. Just going to turn and fly straight into the harbor. Boy, it's a nice sheltered harbor here for ships to come into. Okay, we're going to turn now and head towards the airport. So we're looking for runway 34. So I'm going to try try and get a little bit of altitude here, and then follow the magenta line in to the runway. So you can zoom in with your mouse on this, just so you can more accurately line things up. I'm going to slow down a bit now so I can put down my flaps for landing. So I'm just cutting right back on the throttle here, so we don't get our airspeed up too much as I descend. So we're at 800 feet now. Just watch your speed. You don't stall. Okay. Start descending now. I'm cutting back my airspeed. So it's a nice long runway for a small plane like this. It doesn't need much to stop. There's runway 34. So I'm cutting back on the throttle. Just going to try and glide it in here for a nice smooth landing if I can pull it off.
Savage 107, turn next taxiway.
Okay, so it bounced a little bit, and if you can bring that in for a nice smooth landing and not bounce it, you've done really well. So why don't you give this flight a try and see if you can pull it off. I'm just going to bring my flaps up now. I'm going to pull over here and park.
Savage 107, turn next taxiway. Savage 107, contact ground on 121.9er.
Now you can't brake too hard if you're going
to
fast.
121.9er, Savage
You're going to
107.
dive into the runway like I told you. So let's just, you can use this also to bring up ATC. There's the tower there. And tune the ground. And request taxi to parking. Taxi to the gates.
Ground Savage 107, request taxi to the gate.
Savage 107, taxi to gate tree using taxiway golf.
Taxiing to gate tree using taxiway golf, Savage 107.
Yeah, we don't have to go very far here. You try not to swerve like crazy. Like I said, just easy on the yoke will prevent that. You get a little too twisty, it'll go back and forth immediately, responding. Okay, so We've got our blue box here to pull up into, and then it will change color and disappear if everything is done correctly. Sometimes you have ground crew here that's giving you directions, but I don't see anybody today. So let's watch from the outside and you'll see what happens here. It looks like we're right on the yellow line. Bingo, change color, then it should disappear. Bingo, stop. Okay, thank you very much for joining me on this flight. I hope you got some tips. I'm just going to shut this down now. So you got to keep your finger on the brake. I'm going to back off here. And I'm going to shut off the avionics master. Turn off these two. And the ignition as well. But that'll shut it down. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the flight, and I'll see you next time.